Hello, Katherine here. That sounded ominous, sorry. It's probably because I feel quite ominous. You catch me in the middle of packing to go away. I am heading to Sri Lanka for a few days, which is very exciting, to go to the Ceylon Literary Festival. Such glamour is rare in my world, trust me. But I'm owning this because it's great. I can't wait. And the worst bit is the packing, isn't it? It just makes me so anxious. I have list upon list stored in my phone. I have a list for every eventuality. And every time I pack to go somewhere, I go through the checklist and I worry, I just worry. I worry about not having the right things. I worry about missing the important things. I worry about not having enough clothes. I worry about having too many clothes. I am always convinced that my case is going to be too heavy and they're going to send me back again somehow and I'll have to not get on the plane. I don't know. I can't make sense of all the things I worry about. It's just worry itself. It's such a long way to go. It's such a big thing to do. And I am here to tell you, I am not used to the concept of going somewhere hot in the middle of winter. It's alien to me as a concept. And I think I'm just a bit unclear about how to truly handle it. Anyway, I have a full case, only one case. That's good, right? I'm only going for 5 days. Only one hand luggage bag, also a key principle of my packing, because if I have too many things about me, I will lose something. And I think I'm nearly good to go. I think my taxi comes at 6:30 tomorrow morning. And just doing this really got me thinking about the podcast and the questions that I ask my guests, which are all about going away, getting away from it all, about taking some time to yourself and being not just somewhere else, but someone else for a while. And it just made me think that we don't often acknowledge the difficult parts of travel, the stress, the way that what seems so tantalizingly different in prospect can feel different in a very challenging way when we actually get there. It's funny because as I pack my case, I couldn't talk for everybody else, but as I pack my case, I feel like I'm making a set of decisions about who I am and how I represent myself. So often I pack a completely different set of clothes to the clothes that I wear every day. And what am I doing there, I wonder? Am I trying to lie about myself to present a different kind of person altogether? Or am I trying to tell a truth that I don't feel comes across most of the time? It's, of course, compounded because at these things, she says, just tucking an extra dress into her case that she had decided not to pack before, we're meeting new people quite often. And so it's a chance for reinvention. But the problem is our tired old selves often rear up once we're there. And it's not quite the same as we hoped. Anyway, this all leads really nicely to today's episode, which is the wonderful Poorna Bell, who many of you will know from her brilliant journalism, including her Substack, which is called As I Was Saying, great title. I think one of the most well-known issues that she writes about is grief, particularly as she wrote about her husband's suicide. This is an episode that is quite fun, quite light, but I just wanted to let you know that we do touch on eating disorders somewhere along the way. Nothing particularly heavy, but if that feels tricky for you today, then please feel free to avoid it. But instead, I can promise you a lovely episode about the joys of getting away from it all. Poorna and I share the pleasure of just gazing out over the sea, which is a joy to talk about for me, and it really kind of put me in a very calm space. But we also talk a lot about both of our desire to move our bodies, but also to escape the idea of self-improvement behind that, just doing things for the joy. I think joy is the word that comes across a lot in this episode, actually, and I will hand it over to you for your judgment. But yeah, maybe this is a good one to lie back, not think about packing a suitcase, and really immerse yourself in. I'll be back after the podcast to say goodbye, hopefully with everything zipped up. Poorna, welcome to The Clearing. It's so lovely to have you here. How are you feeling at the moment? Are you in need of a rest in general, or are you feeling very refreshed?
Not at the moment. Wait, I just realized that sounded like I was saying I wasn't refreshed. I actually do feel relatively refreshed because I've just come back from holiday.
Oh, nice.
However, it was not a relaxing holiday. It felt like being in an immersive experience around sleep deprivation because I was visiting family in India and near my parents' flat, which is in a cul-de-sac, which you would assume would be really quiet. There are some very aggressive church bells that go off at 5 a.m. Then, yeah, then there's this enormous school playground that kicks off at 6 a.m. and they have a cleaner who comes in to help out from time to time at 7 a.m. So I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep for about 10 days, Katherine, but
Okay.
but when I came back, I slept for about the first night. I had about 14 or 15 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like I went into a different dimension, but that sleep just, I think, fixed my brain. And I've slept really well since then. So I feel really fresh.
That's great. Are you the kind of person who can do that big catch-up sleep? Is that
Yeah.
unusual for you? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
I mean, I always worry about jinxing myself, but I've always been a good sleeper. And
Mm.
even when I've got stuff going on that's deeply stressful or worrying, I think it's my superpower. I can always get to sleep at some point. Yeah.
How lovely. I'm pretty good at getting to sleep.
Mm.
Staying asleep is more of a challenge. Like, have that kind of middle of the night meander through my subconscious that is not always that fun.
Yeah.
But I really envy people that can do long sleeps because I just can't. I'm awake. I'd be awake before your church bells anyway. I'd be like, oh, hi, church bells, It must be so nice. So if I get overtired, I've got to go to bed really early to get a long sleep in because I'm going to be up in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel the older I've gotten, I can't sleep in really past a certain time. But
Yeah.
I think that when my body actually really needs sleep, like when it needs to catch up on things, it's like this switch goes off and it just is able to do it. But also because everyone's very keen to tell you what their tips are of how to get over jet lag. And I just need to sleep as much as possible until my brain feels okay and then it's fine. So yeah.
That sounds very reasonable.
Yeah.
So tell me, we're going to take you into the clearing in a minute, but are you the kind of person that gets away from it all quite often? Are you kind of, I don't know, the sort of person that craves solitude, or do you just carry on? Like, so many people seem to just carry on through the year, which is interesting to me.
I think I'm a bit of both. So I feel like in recent years I haven't had as much time, let's say for example, traveling or taking myself away for so when I say solo trips, I mean the kind of trips that really take you out into nature, where
Mm,
there's
mm.
not really much of anything around. And I think that part of that was I think caused by the pandemic. And I think that before the pandemic, I could spend really, really long periods like that alone, traveling. And after that, I just felt I could do it for maybe a week, but anything longer than that, I just felt quite uncomfortable.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that in the last couple of years, I think also because I've just wanted to spend time with family and friends, it has usually always been with someone else apart from the odd solo trip here and there. But I think it's funny you mentioned this because my 2026 intention is to do more where I'm just taking myself out to somewhere that's just a bit quiet and a bit more outdoorsy. And it doesn't have to be, like a really expensive adventure trip or anything like that. It can literally be like 2 days maybe somewhere.
It's so lovely. I interviewed Pico Iyer last year, and I think it's every 13 weeks he goes on a retreat. I could be wrong about that number, but he just has this rhythm and he retreats to a monastery in the hills in California, and it sounds absolutely idyllic. Spends several days in complete silence, not writing necessarily, not kind of trying to be productive, but just resetting. I aspire to that kind of rhythm. I mean, life is busy and it's hard to do. But I'm interested to know, because actually you've written a lot about becoming single in not quite your middle years, but as you were, thinking you were maybe not about to.
Yeah.
What's it like as a sort of solo traveller to retreat? Does it always feel safe to you?
It depends on, I think, the type of travel that I do. I think that I've done like various iterations of it, and I've sort of arrived at a version of it that makes me feel comfortable. And I think that I used to be a travel writer and a travel editor, many years ago, earlier on in my career, and there was this real romanticism around that kind of travel writing, where you go off the beaten track, and you'd have like predominantly male travel journalists like talk about, just
Yeah.
bragging about all of these places, right? And so it kind of fixed this idea in my head that that's what authentic travel was, that you would just go somewhere with like your belongings knotted in
On
a
your
hanky
back.
at the end of a stick. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you just like see where the wind takes you. And okay, cool. Maybe that works for some people, but that doesn't work for me. And I definitely don't really think it works for women. And some women might be okay doing that, but I just think that for me as a solo traveler, I need to feel like as if someone knows where I am, that I've got some form of like a phone on me, or safety is definitely something that's at the forefront
Yeah.
of my mind. And just being comfortable, like some people will say things like, oh, when you dine out alone solo, you shouldn't take your phone with you, or just do. The whole point of it is that you do what you want. You don't have to. There's no like
Yeah.
all through style book that you have to take off and adhere to. The whole point of solo travel is you do exactly what you want when you want to, according to the version of it that makes you feel comfortable. So for me, when I go to remote places or I go and do something adventure travel-y, I prefer to do some part of it where I'm doing it with a group, like a tour, whether it's like a guided thing or whatever it is.
Yes. Yeah.
If I'm not doing any of that, then I prefer to be in places like cities where everything is accessible, and I feel kind of like held by it, so I can dip
Yeah.
in and dip out as much as I want. But I think I sort of learned the hard way that like that feeling of being remote where I don't have access to anything, that's not a comfortable place for me. I want to know that there's some sense of infrastructure around me, I think, to a
More
degree.
of a romantic idea than in the practice. That makes
Yeah.
loads of sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, I am really excited to know what your vision of a dream retreat will therefore be. So welcome to my clearing. It's whatever clearing you want it to be. So describe the landscape we find ourselves in as you head to the place you dream of to truly get away from it all.
I think the presence of the ocean or the sea is very, very important.
100%.
Yeah. I think any kind of dwelling that sits within view of the sea, something with floor to ceiling windows where it looks like the sea is, or it's almost just a portal into that like wide open space.
Yeah. Yeah. How lovely.
Um,
So we're looking out over, what sea is it though? Because that's such a variation, isn't it? Like I live by the sort of Channel stroke North Sea, which is maybe not the most beautiful blue sea to look over. What sea would you be staring over?
it definitely is not the North Sea.
I won't take
I
that
could
personally.
say
It's fine.
categorically it's not the North Sea. And yeah, it's not, anything like the Atlantic, or it needs to have a bit of warmth to it. Not necessarily something so warm as I don't know, like somewhere that I visit very often is Thailand. So maybe not something as warm and as blue as that sea. If I In my mind's eye, it's the kind of sea that I would maybe see around New Zealand, possibly on a summer's
Okay.
day.
Okay. So I've never been to New Zealand, tragically, and I hope to rectify that one day. But I imagine that sea as still quite wavy and crashy, but also quite clear and kind of very clean, I think would be my vision of that.
Yeah, I think the reason why that's my reference point is because a lot of solo travel that I did, where I just sort of hired a car and just went by myself and into some pretty remote places. And that is a country that I actually feel quite safe doing that in, is that was the kind of sea that I would come across quite a lot. And again, not to disparage the North Sea too much, but the
That's
North
fine. The
Sea,
North Sea can take it. It's
yeah,
fine.
like the North Sea, like literally feels that it's got razor blades hidden, beneath the waves. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I think we have to take that on the chin. I mean, I think Southern Water can take some of that responsibility.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, a New Zealand sea has been both. It's been something that is warm enough for me to swim in, which I have done, but it is something that, yeah, can sometimes have a bit of bite to it, and depending on which part of the coastline you're on, it can be a bit crashy, but sometimes it can be really still and almost like a mirror. And then I think for me, when I think about that space, I'm just sort of like looking out onto this expanse, and there's just sunlight, hitting the water in a million different ways that just feels really, really calming.
This sounds gorgeous. Yeah. You said that your dwelling would have floor to ceiling windows, which I love. Tell me a bit more about it. Are we cabining or are we spa hoteling here?
Definitely a cabin. I would say that it feels to me like even though I don't know how well it will hold up against the elements or the practicality of it, but like a wooden cabin with, a couple of bedrooms and like a really large open space that kind of comprises of a kitchen and a living room and isn't like super low ceiling, but is cozy enough, because I didn't realize
Yeah.
this until recently. I am really not a fan of high ceilings.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know people love them. People love them. No, I'm really not. No,
You like to feel enclosed and held, I guess, in your space. Yeah,
I do. Yeah,
I understand that.
yeah. I was watching. I'm sort of obsessed with like Carrie Bradshaw's house in like the last season of And Just Like That. But at the same time, I would hate to live somewhere like that. Like my sister and I were debating whether or not we'd want to live somewhere like that. And we were just like, it's just too big.
Yeah.
Which is interesting for me to know, because I always thought I'd want somewhere huge. And the answer is no.
We grow up, you're almost trained as a child to say, when I grow up, I want to live in a mansion. I mean, I'm not really sure what a mansion is anymore, but it's actually you know, there are practical things about that I think now, like I don't want to clean any bigger house than I have already. I can't keep up. I couldn't manage a bigger garden. But also just the sense of waste that we're supposed to aspire to. I, I'd just make a mess in more rooms. I'm not sure if it'd improve my life at all, really.
No, and this is going to be such a bizarre reference given that this is so opposite to your demographic. But I was listening to this podcast where Craig David was talking.
We know Craig David. We're okay.
I know.
Probably from the 90s, in all fairness.
I think he was talking about this period of his life where he literally just lived in a hotel room. Not like, it wasn't a suite. It wasn't like a big hotel room. It was like a very small enclosed space while he was, I think, writing or recording or something. And someone said to him, but you could afford to be anywhere and do anything. And I think it was something about, it was about the dimensions, and it was about kind of feeling held within that space. And
Yeah.
I think the idea of having space in a house where I don't go there regularly really unsettles me. I don't
I know.
why.
Yeah, there's something almost like haunted house about
Yeah.
not being able to master the space, you know, not being able to kind of be conscious of it all at once. No, I totally get that. With those high ceilings too, you know, it starts to echo. Okay, so we're in this gorgeous cabin, amazing view. What kind of thing are you doing during this retreat? What does rest look like to you?
I think rest to me is having a day where like nothing needs to happen in it by a particular time. So there's no appointments in this day, you know? Things, it doesn't mean that I don't do things in the day, but it
Yeah.
means that they happen at the pace that I naturally feel that I want to move within. And I had a day like this. I trialed this with my sister, actually. We had a day where we had to get somewhere and then do a couple of things, but we just did it at our own pace. And it was the most relaxed. It was like one of the best days I think I've ever had. And it wasn't like anything spectacular happened in that day, you know,
Yeah.
but it was just
no
like as an
hurry.
anchor point for rest. I think, that to me was, and I still think about that day whenever I try and recreate a day of rest for myself. I'm like, remember when you had that day when a few things were planned, but you didn't have to do them by a particular time? Like, let's just do that.
That's like escaping adulthood, that feeling to me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but whenever my calendar is full, I just get the absolute dreads. Like they don't have to be bad things, but just the kind of the sense that I haven't got any agency over my time for the entire day. I hate that feeling.
Yeah, I agree. And I think conversely, when I don't have anything planned, like I live alone and I really love the space that I live in. And I just love the whole vibe of it. It's like my favorite place in the entire world.
That's great. That's how it should feel.
Thanks. I mean, it's taken a very long time to realize that, but I think it's the place that I can't wait to spend time in, and it's the place that I can't wait to get back to. And so I'm already looking ahead to when can I have a day where I'm at home and I don't have any plans. And that feels like a treat almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that if in this sort of space, this kind of imaginary space, I would say that I love making breakfast. So it would include some form of just a really slow breakfast.
Lovely. What sort of breakfast are we talking?
I really love eggs. So it would be something with like either eggs and bacon or smoked salmon or toast. I love the smell of toast. So it would be something.
Smell of toast is the best
smell. And even though, I mean, I love reading, but I would say that I find it really difficult to just, you know how some people like during the day will go, okay, I'm just going to spend my day reading.
Yeah.
Unless I'm on holiday, I find it really difficult to do that. So reading is always something I do before I go to bed, usually.
Yeah.
I would say during the day, it would probably be a mixture of, especially if we're by the sea. I love kayaking and I love paddleboarding, so it would probably be something like
Lovely.
that.
Yeah. You are very fit, aren't you? I mean, you're probably like, no, but but you are very fit. Like I get the sense that you'll need to be in motion to feel satisfied.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that something that involves moving myself, or some kind of interaction with the landscape, I think is really important to me. I get a lot of joy out of it. And I think that I've learned to appreciate that not everyone loves that. For example, I have a friend rather, who for a week over Christmas, she didn't leave her house at all. Like she did not leave her house or her sofa or her bed. And that was an amazing time for her. I think for me,
I would die.
I would die. Yeah, I would die. I couldn't fathom that. I couldn't imagine it. But I also feel like the kind of movement that I do, oh, this is going to sound really judgmental, but it's really not meant to be. It's because I genuinely enjoy it and need to, versus some people that I know who will go, oh, okay, I've got to go for a walk because I have to work off
Right.
this
Yeah.
dinner I had, or, you know, and I just don't like that at all. I hate that actually. And I don't like that energy around me. And I just think because the energy ends up being really frantic and really hectic. And I'm just like, do that
Yeah.
on your own time. But the walk that I'm going to go on, I just want to do at my own pace. I don't want you to be doing jumping jacks while we're.
God. Well, yeah, I mean, for me, that kind of punitive energy
Yeah.
around moving your body is just so, I find it quite upsetting. I mean, I love walking. I love swimming. I actually, in the right frame of mind, can really enjoy going to the gym because I kind of love putting my earphones in, listening to music and just getting into it without thinking too much. Like that can actually be really pleasurable. But a couple of friends last year texted me to say we're starting doing a walk at 6 o'clock every morning before breakfast, so that we can really kickstart our metabolisms. And I was like, hard no, absolutely not. Love walking, love being with you guys, but that is just that intention is enough for me to say no, I'm out. I'm not doing it to punish myself or to burn calories before I have my breakfast. I'm walking for the joy of walking, or not at all.
Yeah. And also, no offense to your friends, but that's not how metabolism works.
Oh, everyone's got like a sort of weird, weird idea of how to trick their metabolism into. I mean, I remember when I first started writing about cold water swimming, and I would say like 60% of the posts before I really started biting back at people were either, well, I bet that really kickstarts your metabolism, whatever the hell that means, or have you lost weight? And it's like,
God.
all the no's to those, all the no's, no, I'm not going to even answer it. But also, can we just not think about that all the goddamn time, please?
Yeah.
Let's just have some relief from it.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I think it's just I find that for me, movement has to be something that is anchored in something different. It just can't be the punishment route. And it's really, I feel really sad for people that don't get to that point, you know. But also I just feel, I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like I'm of the age where now I just like either listen to what people say and just don't say anything, or I just leave the room.
Just let it wash over you. I used to get into fights about this kind of thing, and it's not productive. I just nod and but also I do try and remove myself from that kind of company now, I have to say. I struggled with eating disorders when I was younger, and that patterning never leaves your brain.
No.
And I've really recognized that it can be very challenging for me to be hearing that messaging, because there's like a little atavistic part of me that is like, oh yes, I'm going to hook onto that, and I just can't be there.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
But you've written about the joy, conversely, of being strong, and that's a very different kind of a paradigm, isn't it? I think
I would say that it freed me, if I'm being really honest. I think that I mentioned that I was in India for a couple of weeks, and that experience is always massively triggering around food and around body size, because people just comment on it all the time. And before going there on a trip, because I've got a lot of family there, and I spent part of my childhood growing up there, even the anticipation of a trip like sets off this like hum, at the back of my head of like this sort of like narrative. But this time round, I have to be honest, it was there. Like it's always there around certain things. It's just that the volume of it is quieter. But this time round, I just thought, especially when I see like older relatives who are struggling with things health-wise, that I just think, man, like, all of these things that I talk about either through my writing or on podcasts, which is that sort of recentering around what's actually important in your older age, and
while you're doing these things,
but seeing the real-time consequences play out for people, right? Because they were and they are so hyper fixated on being as thin and as small as possible that they've neglected like any kind of, hey, so what am I going to do to like grow strong bones? Like, what am I going to do to make sure that I'm rested and nourished properly? And seeing the impacts on them, that is actually very, very sobering for me, because there was sort of a point where I was just like, also, there's no I don't know if you've had this in your life, but what I've realized is there's no body weight, there's no kind of like point at which you really think, oh, this is great. I feel I feel like there's no noise around all of this stuff. So I think that my personal experience has been that it has to be about reducing the volume. And I do think that sport for me has helped a lot with that, because it doesn't, like, when people talk to me about this stuff, and whether it's like metabolism, or oh, I've gone for a run and I didn't eat anything before, I'm just like, this is all just what you're talking about doesn't have like a translation into something that's like useful. Like it's all just like noise. And so I think figuring that out and trying to just focus on, okay, so how long am I going to walk today? Like, where am I going to walk to? Like, what is it that I'm going to do? What will my body allow me to do? I would rather focus on that stuff than figuring out, all of the other stuff that comes with it.
Like being able to ask the question, how does this make my body feel?
Yeah.
And the answer is not punished, but instead, like, actually, for me, I love to be in movement. I find it very hard to sit still for long periods of time. And so I want to walk until my legs feel satisfied. That's my aim, until my legs feel really like, oh, I'm cooked now. Thank you very much. That's a really gorgeous feeling. Or I want to swim until I feel calm. I've got the big cold swimming questions are like, how long do you stay in? How cold is it? How far do you go? They're just not relevant. They're not relevant questions when you're doing something for joy and for the endorphin rush of being in the water. And I always say, this will disappoint you. I don't measure the time. I don't measure the temperature. I don't go anywhere. I tread water. It's not everything has to be quantifiable to do something for you, and that something is just not always thinness.
I was talking to someone about I sort of started to take up martial arts a couple of years ago, and I mean, in one way, people don't know what questions to ask. So the questions have been
How do you measure this?
Yeah. But like, one of my things was realizing that I can do cartwheels. And I was like, I'm 45 years old and I can do forwards and backwards rolls and I can do cartwheels. And I realized I sound like a child,
Such a cool thing to be able to
telling
do
you
a
what I did
cartwheel.
in a playground. But I'm really proud. I'm really proud of that. And if I said this to someone that had asked me a serious question, they would just look at me like, are you okay? But yeah, I think that is important to me because it indicates to me that my body has a level of mobility that I just didn't think I would have at this age.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But that's a capacity for fun as well. I spent my late 20s trying to learn to turn a cartwheel. I've never been able to do it. I'm too long. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't, I don't form a wheel. I just form a kind of length of ribbon that bends somewhere. I certainly couldn't do it now, just to be clear. Okay, so we are taking glorious unquantified movement during this retreat.
Yeah.
Is there anything you bring with you when you travel or that you'd like to bring with you to this kind of retreat? Something maybe of sentimental value or something comforting that reminds you of home? What do you travel with?
This is a really difficult question because I don't really have attachments to things like that. I don't know. I don't know how that makes me come across, but
that's fine. I think that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, like there are things that I have in my flat, in my home, which I obviously love. But obviously apart from like maybe the pictures on the walls and my photographs, it sounds terrible, but if it all burnt down, it would be really sad, but I would be okay. There's nothing that I would really think, oh my God, that, and I think that has got to do with some unexplained sense of just wanting to shed things as each year goes on. Like, for example, I don't want to receive presents. I've tried to say this to every friend, every person that I know, unless it's a bunch of flowers or food or something from your garden.
Yeah.
I never want to receive anything, because I just don't want to acquire any more stuff. So I can't think of something beyond a pair of slippers, which I realize isn't a sexy answer. I will always take my slippers with me, but I would say that the thing I probably would value the most, it's not sentimental, but it is for me a symbol of independence, which is a little bag that I carry around my neck that's waterproof. And so when I remember like a few years ago when I would go traveling solo and I would go to the beach, and I remember the first time I realized like I was like, oh my God, but how do I go for a swim? Because there's no one to watch my stuff.
Right.
And it made
That's
me
really
actually feel really weirdly vulnerable. Yeah. Like, because I just thought, oh no, like this is the point at which you might kind of need someone. And I had this little like pink bag, which I still have, that I brought with me on my next trip. And I have this, I love doing this. So I'll have the bag around my neck so I don't have to worry about anything. It's got my phone, it's got my like cards, whatever. And I really just love lying on my back in the sea and just looking straight up at the sky.
Like a sea otter.
Like a sea like a sea otter. And I know it sounds really silly, but that little bag allows me to do that. Yeah. So because I don't have to worry. I don't have to think, is someone going to like nick all of my stuff? I literally don't have to think about anything. And I don't have to have someone with me. I don't have to have someone like a floater next to me either. It's just one of my favorite things to do. Yeah.
That makes loads of sense. I'm really interested in your lack of attachment to possessions as well. I really understand that. I'm actually very similar. Like I love my stuff, but I I would let go of any of it mostly pretty willingly.
Yeah.
I wonder, and you might not want to talk into this, and that's really fine, but it seems to me that that's quite often a feature of people that have been really intimate with grief, and they've had to clear through someone else's life. And there's something about that experience that changes your view of like owning things and how much it ultimately matters. Maybe that's not on the nose.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something there, because I think that, like, when my husband passed away, I remember that, so this was 10 years ago, and I remember that in the first month, I could get like lots of stuff done, you know, like I could be really sort of like, okay, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. And I was very kind of like businesslike about the practicality of it, right? But there was like there was so much of his stuff that was in the loft. And I didn't deal with it then. And I then had to deal with it like about 9 months later when I was planning to move out of that flat. And that literally felt like walking through tar. The whole process of it was really difficult. And I think that what you kind of realize, I mean, it changes, I think, over time, but I've given like various bits of his things away to, you know, friends and family who might have wanted it. I've also kept like a few bits here and there, but I haven't kept a lot of it, you know, because I think I just realized that A, someone else could use it, and B, some things do have like a very sad attachment to it. But also it is just stuff. Like,
and we all have so much
people
stuff.
have so much stuff, and also that's just not what a person is after they die. Like, I would say that it's more in the photographs, it's more in like recordings of his voice, it's more in things like that. Like, that is something that I think is like very precious. But like other things, like, you know, like I had to sort of consider, I wrote a piece about it on Substack actually, where I had to consider about what to do with his watch, because I just that watch like pissed me off.
Was that the really expensive watch?
Really expensive watch.
I remember reading this.
That watch has pissed me off for about 10 years. And I was like, okay, I think I need to do something about this watch. So it's, and at the time, like when I took it into the watch shop, because initially I just took it in to get it serviced. Also did not realize how much it costs to get a watch
really
serviced.
Oh god,
outrageous. But the guy like said something, like he was so lovely, but he said this line, and he said, because again, I was all very like kind of like, you know, stuff my emotions in, and I'm being very like practical
I'm gonna do this
about it.
Yeah.
And then he said something like, you know, I can tell that he really loved this watch. And there was a moment where I was like, oh my God, like I just almost just wanted to snatch the watch away from him and just go, no, I'm just gonna like keep it. And then I had a moment when I got home, and I was like, you know what are you gonna do? Like, are you just gonna then keep this watch in a drawer for another 10 years? So,
because he loved it, but you hate it. Like, what do you do with that piece of information? That's so complicated.
And also it's a watch. It's like, it's meant to be worn. It's meant to, like, any possession that you have that's like a piece of clothing or a piece of jewelry, it's meant to be worn. It's not meant to be kind of like hoarded like a dragon. And so I think there's a part of me that I think you're right. I think grief has had a part to play in it, but also that your things, like your material possessions, are just not the things that matter, you know. And I don't know, I remember growing up, and you know, like whether it was my mum or like other relatives, you know, they would get so upset like if something broke, you know, like if it was like a little vase or an artifact or something. I mean, just unbelievably upset. And I don't know what it was in my brain, but like I just remember looking at it thinking, I don't want to be that. Like I don't want that to be my reaction. And I understand why it is, you know, we're sort of like 1 degree removed from our parents, right? In terms of like, my parents grew up with not very much money. And so those things were like hugely valuable to them. But I do remember thinking, I think this was maybe like some statue of like an old man playing a fiddle. We hated the statue. And one of us like accidentally
People's houses used to be full of this stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, like, I mean, you can picture it. You don't even need to like see it to know what this
I know it. I
like.
can actually see it. Yeah.
And something happened to his fiddle. I don't know. We dropped it or something. And
as it always does.
As it always does. Yeah, and I do remember the last time that happened, I was like, ooh, I just don't want to be that. Like, no one's died. Like, that's okay. But I think the unfortunate thing is when you're a kid and you don't show that you're that upset about it, I think that infuriates.
Because you're not.
I'm not taking this seriously. It's like, no.
I am dyspraxic and I've broken a lot of things in my time, and I've broken a lot of things at like friends' parents' house, like really embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like I've kicked over some ornament, and I am always so careful in my house to really not have valuable, precious things out that I'd get upset at. Like I just don't own them. I don't own those things. Like they're just things. But also I still can remember being that child that just couldn't not break stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And just thinking, why? Why are we... I'm haunted by my friend's awful Paul Pottery dolphin that I smashed. And she was just... The mother was so upset. And there's like, even looking at it as an adult, I think, I would have concealed my level of upset out of politeness to that child who obviously didn't do it deliberately. But B, why?
Yeah.
Why? Why? Yeah, no, so I'm so with you.
Yeah.
I love what you're bringing there. I think that's just so nice, because what that gives you is this freedom to swim and to have peace of mind. I think that's such a lovely choice. Would you like to bring as well some kind of item of culture to entertain you or to absorb your attention? A record, a book, a painting? Like, is there something that would sort of occupy your curious brain while you're there?
I had a long think about this, and I think that I got bogged down in the details of thinking about it. So, because I was thinking about a book, and I just thought, yeah, but you'd read that book really quickly, and
you just went through it.
Yeah, so I did get very bogged down in the details. So, if I had to pick something, it would be a book, and it would be a book called Kitchen by a Japanese author called Banana Yoshimoto.
Yes, I know it. Yeah.
And I adore that book. I've read it countless times because of how cozy it is as a book, and anything that involves descriptions of food and warmth and just being comfortable is lovely. But I would read that book in a few hours. That's why.
Yeah, but that's okay though, because then you will have got that all those images kind of fresh in your mind.
Yeah,
there was a beautiful new edition of it last year that Faber brought out, lovely turquoise hardback, which I may have bought for myself. Can't possibly say. But I have Rebecca, who edits my Substack as well. We have this kind of whole category of books that we love, that are books that feature itemized feasts. The kind of anything from those kind of Enid Blyton picnics to the sort of Harry Potter universe does quite good feasts. We read Children of Green Knowe as a group read last year, and there's in fact that's more of a Christmas stocking, but it's still like these. I love a book that talks about the detail of food and just really relishes it. There's such a pleasure in that.
Is this why we all like picky bits? Sorry.
Yes. Yes. We like picky bits, and we like books with picky bits in.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like a sort of Famous Five situation.
Oh,
a Famous Five situation of like sandwiches and oh my gosh. Okay, well that's a connection I hadn't made before.
I'm also still this says a lot about me as well, but I'm still obsessed with the description of chutneys in Midnight's Children. I
Yeah.
still think about that all the time.
Yeah,
The
that
green
is
one. The
true.
green one is the one I want.
Yeah. Descriptions of food, I think, are it's an interesting one because I read Piglet and that's like a very like the food descriptions are super visceral, but it's really interesting how you interpret things differently. My sister read that book and she loved it, and I read that book and it made me really uncomfortable. And so
Right.
I think what I need is actually descriptions of food within a certain context. Like it has to be safe and it has to be warm
Yes.
and friendly and not
Yeah.
because the
Generously
person eating
given.
it has like an issue with stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's something about kind of gentle abundance that feels, in the way that actually if someone serves you a meal, that's kind of how you
Yeah.
want that to feel. There's a generosity to it that isn't judgmental. And I think some books put too much of a slant on it, and that's just uncomfortable.
Yes. Although, funnily enough, I really don't like picnics.
I'm with you. I love the thought of them, but they're
Yes.
really inconvenient and uncomfortable. And you're
Yeah.
just constantly trying to like hold down a napkin with a stone and trying to
Yeah.
find somewhere to sit. And there's insects, and I'm not there for it.
No, but you can't. The thing is, if you say it to people, they look at you like you're a monster. Like, who
Really?
doesn't like picnics? And I'm like, people who like easy access to the loo and like no bugs in their hummus. I was like,
And
why
a
am I
back
having
to
to?
my chair.
Yeah, I know. I was like, why am I having to explain the practicalities of a picnic? But yeah, I understand if you've got children, and it's like a really cute thing to do, maybe even in your garden. Like, I could
Yep.
stretch to a garden picnic.
Near the dishwasher.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like shall we meet in a public park and have food is not it's not a thing
Okay,
for
the
me.
thing I hate the most about picnics is, and even the thought of it, is bringing home the dirty plates and having to
Oh
push all the dirty plates together and take them home and then no,
no, you have to just put it in a bonfire. Like there's no
just burn it.
yeah.
You really are very not attached to your possessions. Just burn the lot. That's it. It's over.
Yeah. Sorry, it's a single use picnic and that's it.
Done.
Yeah.
Smash the plates. But I absolutely hate that about picnics. Is
Yeah.
the pack up afterwards and all those half-eaten. No,
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm out. No picnics on your retreat. Just picky bits.
No,
Just like an
thank you.
endless like tapas kind of flow coming towards you of lovely, delicious little picky bits.
I think so. And also I think that what I really love is the idea of being able to go into the sea and then have a really warm towel and a warm environment immediately after so that I'm not uncomfortable and cold. And that to me is sort of being able to spend a day just doing that constantly, just going in and out of the water is just lovely.
Really lovely. Almost like a sort of contemporary version of your mum with the towel, ready to wrap it around you. That kind of moment where you're enveloped in a towel. Great.
Yeah.
I love that. That sounds gorgeous. So the time has come to leave. But is there, like, when do you know when it's time to go home? You've travelled a lot. You're experienced in this. Is there a distinct point for you when you think I'm done now? I wanna leave.
There has been for sure. I mean, I miss my home when I'm leaving it to go to the airport, I I actually start to miss it from that point. But in the past, I have just allowed myself when I know it's time to go home, I just go home. It's not something that's ever happened to me, obviously, when I'm traveling with other people, but when I
Yeah.
am solo, I remember I was trying to sort of recreate the magic of my pre-COVID, trips, and I was out in Thailand, and I'd been there maybe on my own for about 2 weeks or so, and I was supposed to spend another week there. And I also had some sort of like messy relationship stuff that was kind of taking place back in London. And I just said to my sister, I said, look, I don't want to rush back to take care of that stuff.
Mm.
But I said, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I feel like I'm actually only staying here to prove a point. And
Right.
actually, I really feel there's a deep, deep yearning to be at home.
Mm.
And I just changed my flight ticket. And I think at the time I was sort of really beating myself up about, but you're wasting the money. And I think that when you consider, I guess, like how precious even a week is really out of your life,
Yeah.
I just thought, no, if I've got the means, and okay, it might be slightly uncomfortable financially, I would rather just be home. So that's what I did. And
So
that was about
yeah,
maybe 3 years ago.
that's interesting. So you really knew when you were
I just
ready.
knew. Yeah, I knew it
Yeah.
was time. It was time to, and people thought I was mad because it was like mid-Feb and, the weather here was
Yeah.
horrible. But I just said, I just need to be, it's not even about being back in the UK. I said, I need to be in my own home, and
Yeah.
I need for those like variables to be known rather than
I
me,
think,
being away.
yeah, the best breaks kind of rev you up for the next phase, actually. And ideally, the ideal situation is that you're just ready to get back to it. You're feeling kind of recharged. And I love it when that lands just right, when I'm ready to, like, yeah, come on then, I'm going to hit the ground running now. I feel rested. I think quite often it feels a bit soon for me, but my family always want to be home way before I do. I've got,
Really?
yeah, I've got weeks left in my in my wanderlust, whereas they're always like, oh wow, it'd be nice to get back to the, to our beds and our sofa, like
Yeah.
the very specifics, which I really get, but I always think there's something out there, there's
Yeah.
something out there for me that yeah.
Yeah.
And just finally, is there something you would like to bring back home as a souvenir of your lovely seaside retreat?
I always want to bring back either a stone or a seashell, and I do, and then I put it in the bin. So,
Oh, you're so unsentimental.
yeah, because I bring it back and then I look at it and I think, wasn't that a magical time that ended the moment you came through the front door? So, yes.
Yeah, okay, I will. I will accept that. I like to bring home stones and shells too, but I often put them in my garden, like as a
That is
little.
lovely. Oh, maybe I should do that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it will confuse future archaeologists if nothing else, which I think is an important gesture to make.
Yeah.
That 3,000 years time, they'll be like, "How did that get there?" And I
Just
love
keep
that.
them on their toes. Yeah.
Poorna, thank you so much. It has been just a joy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Katherine.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that one. One of the things that I think really came across for me was Poorna's discussion of solo travel and all the intricacies of that. I actually have to say, and this may be a terrible confession to make, but I love travelling alone. I find it so much more relaxing and light to just not have to worry about organising a family and just organising myself. I always feel like if something goes wrong when I'm travelling alone, then I can handle that. But if something goes wrong while I'm travelling with others, then that's a really different story. And I'm delighted to say that I'm travelling alone tomorrow. I do like a bit of solo time. It's funny, isn't it, how much we invest in these moments of travel. I'll be home again by early next week. I just wonder what is looming so large in my mind about it, apart from the weight of my suitcase, of course. But it was really, really good to talk to someone else about that feeling of just ease that I think I'm craving too. I'm going to get myself all zipped up and ready to go. My labels are on. I don't know if you do this too, but I have a pile of clothes ready for tomorrow morning so I don't even have to think about it. All I need to do is put my makeup bag in my case tomorrow morning after I've made myself presentable to the world. I'm full of all these schemes at the moment. Listen, if you don't know Poorna's work but loved her episode, and indeed why wouldn't you, do check her out on Substack. As I was saying, is her newsletter. It's brilliant. But also she has a new book coming out more or less as this podcast goes out. So if it isn't out on the day, you'll be able to catch it in a few days' time. It's called She Wanted More. And it really is about the pivots that women make when they're proper grown-ups, when they've reached the fullness of their age, into ambitions and desires that they've perhaps carried with them from a long time. That noise in the background is my cat scratching her claws next to me, just to add a really delightful soundtrack as I'm talking to you. I hope you don't mind. She had a good time, didn't you, BB? Hello. I will stop rambling and I will take myself away, but have a great week, and I will see you back in another week with another really brilliant guest. All right, until then, take lots of care. Bye.